Well, ladies and gentlemen, after watching several episodes of SmackDown and watching the WWE Monday Night Raw recently, I don't know what the WWF is thinking, but quite frankly, I think maybe that they have turned around and completely gone way out into left field. Let's start with something very simple. Brock Lesnar attacking Triple H in the ring. Okay. Here's a guy that was in the was then the WWF, now the WWE, however you want to call it, for a number of years. This guy comes in, wins a title, young guy, Vince McMahon builds a whole big, huge franchise thing around him and figures he's going to be the replacement for Hulk Hogan and everybody else. Well, it didn't work out that way. As a matter of fact, when things got a little too tough, Brock turned around and left and went to the MMA. The MMA, he turned out to be, not too bad. From some of the matches I saw him in, he wasn't too bad. He was a competitive fighter, decent fighter. He won a title. But then again, the competition got a little too stiff, and Brock left. Goes back to what is now the WWE, and guess what? He quits. I mean, come on, guys. Can you not come up with a better storyline than this? Then you have Paul Haymen turning around less than a week or two later, stepping into a ring and serving Triple H with papers all about this contract dispute. Well, guess what, folks? I don't know if the WWE thinks that their fan base is like completely brain dead, but the simple fact of the matter is this. If Paul Haymen, who allegedly is the representative of Brock Lesnar, wants to walk out and serve papers on him and saying that it was in breach of contract, well, I'll tell you something. I did a little bit of research of my own, dealing strictly with the letter of the law. Now, again, this is going to completely and totally wrangle the WWE, and I don't really care, for the simple reason that you enter into a negotiated contract, whatever the contract and the specific terms of that contract were when they were signed, that's all the WWE has to honor. They don't have to go any further than that. This whole storyline of John Laurinaitis, who quite frankly his last name sounds more like a communicable disease than it is an actual name, turns around and gives Brock Lesnar all of these fringes. Well, guess what? If it's not a part of your original contract, you're not entitled to it. Period. End of conversation. So what happens? The storyline goes, Brock Lesnar turns around, attacks Triple H, and breaks his arm. Then Paul Haymen steps in the ring and says, well, I'm going to sue you for breach of contract, and now I'm going to sue you for putting your hands on me, Triple H, because you touched me in the ring. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's a little dose of reality for you. If you want to go by the strictest letter of the law, the only person who right now should be facing any criminal charges should be Brock Lesnar. And here are the 4 charges he could very likely end up being charged with. Number 1, assault with intent to injure. Number 2, assault causing bodily harm. Number 3, assault, period. And number 4, he could also be civilly sued if Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, ends up with missing any time off of work, not to mention the fact he would also have to recoup his medical and therapeutic costs in order for Triple H to heal properly. So, Mr. Haymen, you're walking out there and suing for breach of contract doesn't quite jive. Not to mention the fact that, Mr. Haymen, you as the so-called representative of Mr. Brock Lesnar could also be charged with conspiracy. Okay? There's something you didn't actually think. You could also be charged as an accessory after the fact. Because of the fact that you being his so-called representative, you should have had better control of your client to prevent him from doing something so stupid to begin with. And as far as John Laurinaitis is concerned, hey John, you always talk like this? Man, you sound like somebody who quite frankly would probably have a better line of work being a cartoon voiceover than you do an actual, whatever it is you do. Oh, wait, I forget. You're the so-called general manager of SmackDown and Raw, and you're also the vice president in charge of talent relations for the WWE. In point of fact, translation, ladies and gentlemen, in plain simple English, you're just basically an office guy who now got himself on camera. You weren't that great in Japan, and you're not that great now. Period. End of conversation. The simple fact of the matter is this. John Laurinaitis entered into a situation that he had no business entering into. Brock Lesnar attacks Triple H. breaks his arm. Well, guess what? As I said before, the only one who faces any criminal charges for anything that was done is Brock Lessnor, who quite frankly is about as talented an athlete as, comparatively, you could compare him to being about the best ski jumper in Guam. I mean, not that I'm insulting anybody who lives in Guam. Finally, we talk about what goes on with the WWE commentators and everything else, and I mean, they have a great deal of it. They have a great deal of them. And again, I don't see how the WWE could think that their fan base is that stupid to begin with. All right? Quite frankly, you can go all the way back to the days of Billy Red Lions. You can go all the way back to the days of when Vince McMahon himself was a color commentator, Jesse the Body Ventura. Now we have the King, Jerry Lawler. Fantastic pro wrestlers, fantastic commentators in their own right. And then you also have Jim Ross. Now, quite frankly, I don't know what the WWE is thinking with Jim Ross, why they keep bringing him back and then firing him and then bringing him back. But quite frankly, Mr. Ross, here's a piece of advice. If they're going to keep treating you like crap, do yourself a favor, bitch slap these guys. All right? And tell them point blank. You don't treat somebody that has been a staple in this business for 3.5, 4 decades. You don't treat somebody like that. Which now leads me to summing up to Micheal Cole. Quite frankly, this guy has about as much entertainment value as a sack of wet cement. I mean, watching paint dry is more interesting than listening to Micheal Cole. All right, the whole storyline of him becoming this announcer who's supposed to be like the shock jock of wrestling commentators, for lack of a better term, and I use that term loosely. Quite frankly, Michael, you sound more like one of those yappy little chihuahuas who needs to get his butt kicked into the next time zone. All right, point blank. I can do a better job as a wrestling commentator than you can, Michael. And believe me, I should know because I have my own internet radio show every single week, and I have more followers than you do. All right, point blank. That's all it works out to. So, that being said, after doing my legal research with both lawyers in the United States and in Canada, right now, the only person, as I said before, who needs to have any criminal charges brought against him is Brock Lesnar. And if the WWE wants to keep spoon-feeding their fans and keep spoon-feeding the fan base these absolutely outrageous storylines and thinking that we're all going to buy into this, you have completely and totally lost what first attracted all the fans to what was then the WWF and what is now the WWE. You lost touch with everybody because now people are just not going to buy this anymore. Somebody goes and breaks somebody's arm on national television, and the guy is not turned around and thrown in jail for it? What, are you crazy? You actually think people are going to buy this? Come on. Nobody's going to buy this crap anymore. That being said, quite frankly, I'm glad the WWE doesn't come to Montreal that much anymore, for the simple reason that if you honestly, seriously think, all right, that the normal, educated, intelligent person that would sit there and watch your programs week after week after week is going to keep buying these ridiculous storylines, it's over. It's done with. Nobody's going to buy this anymore. Do yourselves a favor. Go back and hire yourself a decent set of writers. Okay? And quite frankly, to put this into a WWE, to phrase this the WWE would, so that people would understand, fine. I've been a fan of the WWF, WWE since I was a youngster. I remember commentators, Billy Red Lions, Mean Gene Okerlund, Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse the Body Ventura. The list goes on and on and on. I grew up watching this type of thing, and at one time I thought this was the most amazing thing to watch, and at one time I even had aspired to become a commentator for the WWE myself. Quite frankly, given the opportunity to do so, and actually given the opportunity to step onto or step into a live Raw broadcast, I could make Micheal Cole look completely and totally stupid. Okay? I could embarrass and humiliate that guy beyond belief. Summing it up to putting it in a WWE vernacular, here's a storyline for you. Michael, you want to be rude, you want to be insulting, be careful who you insult. You've made comments about my hometown, Montreal. You've made comments about Canadian WWE fans. Well, guess what, pal? As far as I'm concerned, put your money where your mouth is. The next time the WWE comes to Montreal, you against me. And we'll see who the better commentator is. But don't be surprised if I completely and totally embarrass you and make you look like the completely stupid little yappy chihuahua you really are. WWE fans, it's time we all stand up and tell the WWE point blank, we're not that brain dead. See ya.